Hello, everyone. We are Team 4. I'm Ghala Salama, and my teammates are Tulin, Asail, Asil, Iqbal, Sana, and Shahad. And today we'll present our project titled Simulation of a Pharmacy System at International Medical Center Hospital. This project was completed for IE 422 Industrial System Simulation under the supervision of Dr. Shafa Bek. Our study focuses on analyzing and improving the pharmacy operations during peak hours using, of course, simulation modeling and Simu. In this project, we studied the pharmacy system at IMC, which is one of the leading private hospitals in Jeddah. The pharmacy serves a large number of patients daily and experience congestion during peak hours, especially between 1 and 3 p.m. Our goal was to develop a simulation model using Simu to evaluate the pharmacy workflow and identify possible improvements related to waiting time, patient flow, and resource utilization. This slide explains how the pharmacy system operates. Patients arrive at the pharmacy and choose their service type. Prescription patients go first to the ticketing machine, collect a queue number, and wait until their number is called to an available prescription counter. However, during busy periods, some patients bypass the waiting area and directly approach empty counters. Other visitors who only need front store products skip the queue completely and go directly to the front store section. The pharmacy uses 7 counters, but not all of them operate consistently during peak hours. The main issue identified in the pharmacy system occurs during peak hours. Although 7 counters are available, only 2 counters remain consistently active, while the others operate intermittently because pharmacists leave to perform supporting tasks or start operating later. This creates an uneven workload distribution, where counters 1 and 2 become overloaded, causing long queues and increased patient waiting times. As a result, some patients leave the queue before receiving service, which reduces the overall system efficiency and negatively affects patient satisfaction. Solving this issue can improve workflow efficiency, reduce congestions, and increase the number of patients served. The objectives of this study were first, to evaluate the current pharmacy system in terms of waiting time, throughput, and counter utilization during peak hours. Second, to examine how intermittent counters operations affect patient flow and pharmacy performance. Finally, to improve counter availability and workload distribution in order to reduce waiting times and increase the number of patients served. The input data for this project was collected through direct observation at the hospital pharmacy between 1 and 3 p.m. During this observation period, we recorded patient arrivals, waiting behaviors, processing times, and pharmacist availability. The collected data was analyzed using input analyzer in Simu. For example, inter-arrival times were modeled using exponential distribution, and prescription processing times were also represented using probability distributions based on the collected data. We also included reliability settings for counters that experience interruptions during operations. This slide shows the current simulation model. Patients arrive at the pharmacy, they obtain a ticket, and wait in the queue until they are called to a prescription counter. Some patients leave the queue due to excessive waiting times, while others directly approach available counters without even waiting. Even though 7 counters are available, only 2 counters operate continuously during peak hours, while the others experience interruptions. This imbalance significantly affects waiting times and system performance.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm Shahad Al-Jodi. So after analyzing the current system and identifying the main issues, we proposed 2 improvement scenarios. Let's start with scenario 1. In this scenario, the pharmacists at counters 6 and 7 were assigned to support tasks instead of direct patient service. At the same time, we removed the interruptions and failure-related tasks from counters 3, 4, and 5. so they could keep working without stopping frequently. Because of that, workflow became smoother and patient flow improved. Moving to scenario 2. In this scenario, we adjusted the schedules of counters 5, 6, and 7 to start operating at 1:45 p.m., while the remaining counters stayed unchanged. This was done because patient demand usually starts to increase around 2 p.m. The adjustment allowed more active counters during busy periods and helped serve more patients at the same time. Now, verification and validation. To make sure the model is correct, we performed both verification and validation. Verification was done by checking the simulation in Simio to ensure that all the processes work as accepted. Validation was done by comparing the simulation results with the real system using the trace method, and this helped confirm that the simulation accurately represents the actual system. This slide shows the results and analysis. So let's go through the table. The current system had an average waiting time of about 5.49 minutes. Scenario 1 achieved the best performance by reducing the waiting time to nearly 1 minute. It also served the highest number of patients across all three systems, with around 91 patients compared to 81 in the current system, and reduced the average time spent in the system. Scenario 2 showed some improvement, but its performance was still weaker than Scenario 1. This table presents the counter utilization results. In the current system, counters 1 and 2 had very high utilization, while the remaining counters operated at much lower levels, showing an imbalance in workload distribution. Scenario 1 achieved the most balanced utilization among all counters, and as we saw in the previous slide, Scenario 2 showed some improvement in waiting time and slightly increased the number of patients served compared to the current system. However, the utilization remained lower than both the current system and Scenario 1, which shows that the workload distribution was still less balanced. In conclusion, the main issue was not the number of counters, but inconsistent operation and interruptions. Scenario 1 gave the best performance by reducing waiting times, improving workload distribution, and increasing patients served. So based on these findings, we recommended assigning support tasks to dedicated staff to reduce interruptions at the counters. And these are the references used in this project. Thank you for your time and for watching.